Hi everyone, welcome to another one of my book talks. Okay, it is that time of the week again where I talk about my current read, which is still the same since the last 2 weeks, I think, since I first started this book talk thing. And so in today's episode, hold on, I need to get my okay. Alright, in today's episode, we are going to talk about a few points I have gathered from reading this book here. So I've noticed that my previous videos were a bit more flowy without a specific purpose, but in this video I would like to pinpoint like my specific findings. So I've written them down in my trusty old notebook here. It's not that old actually. I've written in some concepts that I think I have understood from the book, and also some quotes, and then some definitions of things I haven't read of before. Currently I'm on page 54. It's been very good so far, and I'm now at the part where Nietzsche talks about Greek tragedy, and there's a kind of hypothesis on the origin of tragedy, which is why we're all here. So I still haven't really found the answer of why humans are so obsessed with tragedy in itself, but I think I might get there by the end of the book. Okay, if you do have some ideas, do let me know, because I've always been a big fan of, I've said this before in my previous video, I've always been a big fan of tragedy and like tragic stories and tragic heroes. And what Nietzsche has described in his book here is that the reason why we're so interested is because we see a version of ourselves struggling to find meaning within the main character in this tragic hero of the tragedy, specifically Greek tragedy. And so from my notes here, okay, there is one quote that I completely adore. By the way, if you see this is actually a stack of books that I've been using as a tripod for these videos, so just so you know. Okay, the amazing quote is, "With sublime gestures, he reveals to us how the whole world of torment is necessary so that the individual can create the redeeming vision, and then, immersed in this contemplation of it, sit peacefully in his tossing boat amid the waves." This is from page 26. I've written it down here. I really love this idea. In some way, it echoes what is taught, how this world is only temporary and how it is supposed to be full of torment, but not specifically torment. Could be like how it is purposely made full of distractions to interfere with our focus of the redeeming vision. And that's exactly like what it says here, which is quite obvious since Nietzsche obviously has some Christianic influence, I think. And yeah, it's just nice to see a similar concept echoed throughout, because I am one of those people that is like trying to not take everything too seriously, because I mean, in the end, everything is only temporary. So what is the point of putting too much meaning on one specific thing in this temporary world? So I really love this quote here, and this is, I'm not sure if this is specifically from Nietzsche or from Schopenhauer or from Schiller, because they are often mentioned within the book. Another thing I've really enjoyed from the book is the concept of art, because I mean, the premise of the book is how art is like a savior in our world of tragedy. That's what it says here. Overall, I have come to the point where Nietzsche does talk about art specifically. He sees the Greek tragedy as, well, art in general, as consolation for all the misery of this world. Art in this case is seen as a representation of nature. And so by delving into the arts, we are actually becoming one with nature, which is like the primal oneness, the universe, if that makes sense. And so that is like the main purpose of humanity, to create art and to reconnect with nature and to get back to what was once our origin. I think that's what it says here. And then in this case also, he emphasizes on tragedy of the human race, the misery that we all experience. It is based on wisdom. And by this, I think he means excessive wisdom. So the hyper awareness of us being our own individual. In this case, that is only an illusion. So we are not actually that different from so many people that we know. It is the misconception or the illusion of individuation. I've talked about this in my previous video. The illusion of individuation that makes us so hyper aware of everything, and then it makes everything lose its meaning for us. But this search of meaning is actually endless. Therefore, it just keeps going in circles until we're trapped in the cycle of misery. This is what Nietzsche says. This is where art comes in to give us salvation within this process. And I really enjoyed because despite like being prevalent a few years after the nihilistic era, he has a very optimistic tone actually in how he talks about life. So he's aware of the nihilistic philosophy and he is against that. It's comforting in a way because here he says that there is no point specifically in worrying about life too much because it is all an illusion. And in this way, I think he takes a more absurdist approach, even though it's not specifically absurdism at this point. This is a very fun read, in my opinion. There's another quote on this wisdom, that Dionysiac wisdom is a crime against nature, that anyone who, through his knowledge, casts nature into the abyss of destruction must himself experience the dissolution of nature. And this is on page 47. And while talking about this, Nietzsche references to the tale of Oedipus, how he becomes his mother's courter and then his father's murderer. I've seen a few versions of this myth, but I haven't really read it myself. It does make sense because in this story there is a form of incest going on that is unlike nature, that is not supported by nature. And so that is a symbolism used by the Greeks, the Dionysian Greeks, to show how this act of going against nature is a symbol of humanity that keeps excessively searching for wisdom, searching for meaning. He suffers his tragic end. Humans really like that because it is a representation of their internal search of meaning. It does make sense in a way, but I do take everything that I read, especially here, with a grain of salt. He has a very optimistic take actually on humanity and how we keep searching for meaning, and I will keep his thoughts about art in mind whenever I see art, whenever I see a play, and especially a Greek play. Reading this book, I have garnered a bigger interest in reading Greek plays, Greek tragedies. I have a little bit more to go through. This is going to be a very busy week for me, but I will keep reading nonetheless because I've really enjoyed talking about books these past few videos, even though they might not make too much sense, but it's still a nice outlet. This is very refreshing. So if you do have any thoughts about the books I've mentioned or any books relating on certain themes or topics, do let me know in the comments. It's been very fun talking about books, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time.